Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another session with Mene Fine. Today, I want to share with you some core concepts of life that most of you will not find in books. Most of you might not hear other speakers talk about them because these are things that most of us cannot really explain, but are things that are driving the success of a lot of people. You know, you might meet a very successful person and ask him, what are the things that are driving your success? He will give you a list. But when you go back and you start to practice those things that he's practicing, you might be amazed at the result that he's getting, that you are not getting them. So today I want to share with you certain concepts that God has been laying upon my heart. These are concepts that I picked along the way. These are concepts that God dropped in my life that I feel that most of us need to hear them. Because at this crucial moment, when a lot of us are passing through certain challenges in our life, we need to understand certain ways that God can use to work in our life that can transform our life and give us greater opportunities to grow in whatever we are doing. Now, a little background. A few years back, one day I was driving, and as I was driving, I started to hear a noise in my car. I didn't know where the noise was coming from, and at a stage, I stopped and checked my tires, and everything seems okay with them, and I just continued driving, but the noise was increasing, and along the way, I just remember that one day my mechanics told me that there's something called stabilizer link chain that can make such a noise. And because of that, I said, okay, maybe it was that thing that was making the noise. Then as I was driving, something at a stage, as I was accelerating, something just said, park and check your front tire. I just kept driving because I just previously checked the tire before. Again, this voice came back and said, park and check your tire. Now, when he came back the second time, I immediately parked the car, looked at the tire. I didn't notice anything unusual, so I went to the boot, took out my wheel spanner, and went and checked the tire. Amazingly, all the bolts of that particular tire were loose. Now, how did I hear the voice? What was that thing that spoke to me? Those are the kind of things that I want to share with you. Those are the kind of concepts that I want to teach you on how you can learn to start to use them, because you can never get those kind of things from books. But if you learn this kind of things and start to know how to use them, you'll be amazed at the changes that you make in your life. The first concept I want to talk to you about is sensing God's timing, sensing God's season and time for you to change. A few years back, I was in the pharmaceutical importation business, and one day I attended a program where the speaker said that there's somebody here that God wants you to leave what you are doing and start to teach people how to run businesses. Then I did not really, because my pharmaceutical business was doing very well, I didn't see any need to leave the business that I was doing then and start to move into business training. But as the days were going by, suddenly my pharmaceutical business started to have some serious challenges. I couldn't really understand what was going wrong because I basically had put everything in place to make sure that business does not suffer any financial challenge. But as the day were going back, I was having this serious financial challenge. And then he started to sense in my heart that start to read books on becoming a financial manager. Start to read books on business management. Start to read books on consulting. So at that particular point, I started to read books. I started to develop myself on business management. And as I was reading. And I started to also gather a group of people, young business owners around me, and I started to teach them on how to run their business better. Now, people couldn't really understand it. How come your business is failing and you're still teaching other people how to run their businesses? I just continued doing this. At a stage, the more I was doing it, and people were asking me, what are you doing? Even my close relatives were telling me, see, your pharmaceutical business importation is failing. Why not go and start off a retail business? And I was sensing that retail business was not the path for me to go. And also moving into the consultancy business was not the right time for me to move into it. So I just continued to read, I continued to attend seminars, and I was still getting this massive pressure to go. After a certain period of time, I just sensed in my heart that this is the time for you to start. This is the time for you to move into the consultancy business. So immediately I switched. I started by just going to business and said, this is what you need to do. Now, the amazing thing was, when I moved, based on that time that I sensed that it was time for me to move into consultancy, the amazing thing was I'll come into somebody's business and say, I think you need to do this and this in your business. After giving this person the advice, they will look at me and say, you know what, I need to pay you for this business advice. And decide to pay me for business advice that I've been giving for a long time without anybody giving me anything. And also I started to sense again, start to write books. And I started to write books. My first book, I started to sell it for about 2,000. Now, as I was selling this first book, as I was selling the books, one day I met somebody, and I gave him a copy of my book. After he finished reading it, he said, you know what, I have a consultancy business that has been lying fallow for a long time. I think we need to partner. And this guy brought me into the consultancy business. Timing. And from that consultancy business, I started to move, and where the business was doing very well. At a particular point again, I started to sense that what you did from this particular business relationship has come to a close, that it's time for you to move. Why I'm saying this is that a lot of us have missed God's great opportunity because we've not been able to sense God's timing for our lives. There are seasons for everything. But most importantly, in every particular season, there's a time that within which if you miss that particular timing, you find things extremely difficult for you. Presently now, there are companies that I've been consulting with. But recently, over the past 2 months, I've been sensing that it's time for me to move again. And suddenly I was saying, okay, maybe I need to run some of this training that are coming up before I move. And the timing, preparing from the sensing of the time was saying, this is the time for you to move. Leave all the training. In fact, there's a particular training that I normally do for a massive company that they normally do towards the end of every year. But at this particular time, when I was about something to say, this is not the time for you to focus on moving to the next level. I want you, wherever you are, to start to key into the times and seasons of your life. There are times that if you miss, it will be extremely difficult for you to achieve what you want to achieve. You know, there is a divine moment that God sets for any opportunity He's sending down to the earth. It means that if God has decided that this is the time for me to set the internet wisdom into the world, He starts to create a set of people, knowledge into a set of people. Imagine somebody like Warren Buffett, somebody like Bill Gates. Imagine that Bill Gates was born something in 18-something, when there was nothing like internet. Probably would have ended up as a farmer. But because he sensed the timing of something that was about to move, and he was able to pick up something from the heavenly, that way he keyed into the internet age, and because of that, he's the richest man in the world. I can tell you that if you can start, it's something you can sense on the inside of you. Once you key into this and sense the timing, you'll be amazed at the moves that you make, and people will be wondering, who told you about this? Who told you to do this? Timing is critical. The next particular point is what I explained by what recently I was listening to one of the most successful investors in the world. Now, this guy consults for government. So one day he was being interviewed, and they asked him, what are the secrets to your business success? He started to list a lot of the things that he does. And after he was just discussing, towards the end of the interviewer asked him, so sir, but what is one thing that you say, advise young people that this is one thing that they should do that can radically transform them? You say, no, I don't normally share this. But I want to tell you that one of the things that I normally do that has radically transformed my life is meditation. That every morning I wake up and I meditate for at least 10 minutes. That in the middle of the day, I sit down again and I start to meditate. And that most times, that the ideas that come to me are those moments of meditation. Because these are things that don't come from books. You know, it also draws me to one of the habits of Jesus. You know, once he wants to take any major decision, you find him suddenly going to a lonely place to pray. If you can learn the act of meditation, you'll be amazed at how ideas can come into your heart. You know, a lot of times, when I do my trainings, my clients normally ask me, These your ideas, where do you get them from? Now, most times I don't know how to explain to them where I get my ideas, but where most of my ideas come from is very simple. Normally, every day I read 3 chapters of the Bible, and I sit down and I start to meditate on what I've read. And I meditate upon them, and I meditate upon them. Then also for every day, I jog for 1 hour. And as I'm jogging, I'm meditating. And I'm meditating for about 1 hour. And I find out that suddenly ideas start to drop into my mind. If you have not been, see, meditation is different from praying. Meditation is sitting down and picking up an idea, picking up a concept, and start to think about it on your mind, letting your subconscious mind work on it. The more your subconscious mind work on those ideas, those concepts, you'll be amazed how on its own it can generate ideas that you've not thought about. So like I said, I normally practice with 3 chapters of the Bible. You can start with maybe a few verses of the Bible. Just pick them and start to say, this thing that I've read now, what does it mean to me? What is it telling me? What message is it calling? The more you are doing this, you're asking yourself questions. Meditation has to do a lot with asking yourself questions. Sitting in a quiet place and asking yourself questions about certain things. The more you're asking yourself those questions, the more ideas are coming to you. And those ideas are things that just drop into your mind, and you're asking yourself, wow, I never knew this kind of thing would come up. Now, the next concept too that are critical for transforming your life in this present time is noticing your environment. Now, this particular aspect is very critical because most of my books, if you have ever read any of my books, you'll be wondering, how does this guy get most of this amazing concept from? It came from me noticing my environment. As I'm walking around, I'm asking myself, what is it I'm seeing people doing? I'm seeing people do that I've not seen before. What is the lesson from this woman carrying a basket? What insight am I getting from this? And that way, I'm getting ideas and putting them down. And when people read most of my books, they are amazed and say, wow, how did this young man get this idea from? But see something about noticing your environment, especially in an area that you're working in. You know, because I do a lot of recruitment and I do a lot of training. Anytime I'm driving along the way, I'm always looking out for billboards about trainings and seminars. Now, one day, we were driving by a fast food, and there was a traffic jam, and so we had to wait. Now, we looked at the fast food. Me and my wife were looking at the fast food, and she said, wow, did you notice this? I say, yes, I noticed it. I can see vacancy and some people wanted. Maybe I need to look at for some stuff. She said, no, that's not what I'm showing you. That she's showing me that these people are doing some bonanza on certain items. And the more I thought about this, it now dawned on me that if you start to take note of your environment, it will get to a stage that you and other people will be looking at the same thing, but you'll be seeing things that are completely different from what they are seeing. You might be looking at the rain falling. Maybe you can be looking at the rain with a group of people. You'll be seeing something completely different from what every other person is seeing. It comes from you taking out time to notice your environment. Taking out time to study your environment. And in a particular area of your interest, the more you do this, the more you find yourself noticing things that are not obvious to other people. Because your subconscious mind will know that these things are important to you. You know, in our mind, there's something called the reticular activating system. These are more like the gateway to your brain. That is why, assuming you just go to the market and you see a particular shirt, it will dawn on you that maybe when you see that shirt for the first time, that this is a unique shirt, that you've not seen it anywhere. But you'll be amazed that once you buy that shirt and you wear it for about 2 or 3 days, you suddenly see a lot of people wearing that shirt around. What happened? Does it mean that after you bought it, they started to buy it? No. Those guys have been wearing that shirt before. But until that particular moment, it was not important to you. So what your reticular activating system does is that it shields this out. It's more like the security of your brain. Because it doesn't want your brain to be overwhelmed, it takes out things that you don't count as important. So until you bought that shirt, your brain counted it as unimportant, so it shielded it away from you. But the moment you bought that shirt, it counted it as something that's important to you, and it's allowed you to start noticing every other thing. The moment you pick up interest in a particular area and start to study your environment about it, your brain will know that this particular thing is important. And it will start to show you things in that particular area that you normally wouldn't have noticed. But because of the extra interest you're putting in that thing, you start to notice them. Work on this. Start to look at your environment for opportunities. The other most important aspect of how you can change your life in this coming year is start to control what you hear and what you listen to. I can tell you that if you can control what you hear and what you listen to, you'll be amazed at how radically your life will change. A lot of us have become addicted to social media. Now, because we're addicted to social media, you ask yourself, what really have you learned by all the things you are reading in social media? Now, because you are so addicted to social media and filling yourself with a junk, the critical things that you would have noticed, you will not notice. You know, recently somebody said that if you want to change your life, try this simple experiment. That for the next 6 months, don't listen to any news. And for the next 6 months, list the kind of things that you feel will change your life, the kind of information that you need to do, and focus on acquiring only those kind of information. That over the next 6 months, you'll be amazed how far advanced you are compared to others. You know, when I learned this thing, one of the things I started to do was to cut out the news I watch. In fact, for a very long time now, I can't remember the last time I sat down to watch a news from the beginning to the end. Maybe if I put on the television and they are showing the news, I can just watch it. And after about maybe 2 or 3 minutes, I'll switch off again. Because if you have been watching the news recently, you find out that more than 90% of what are in the news are negative. And it's what you feed your eyes that your soul will consume. And it's out of the abundance of the heart that your mouth will speak. It means that what your eyes is seeing, your mind is impressing itself in your mind. And your reticular activating system is telling itself, okay, bad news is important to this guy. So it keeps showing you every avenue of bad news, every avenue of negative news. But the moment you start to shut them out, your reticular activating system starts to tell yourself that, okay, this is no longer important. And at that moment, you start to notice the other areas that you start to count as important. Start now to deliberately, especially social media, deliberately start to count off on the things you read and watch on social media. Presently, when I decided to do this, I listed the kind of people I will read their articles and watch their movies and watch their videos on YouTube and other social media platforms. Ultra successful people who I want to be like. I've looked at the area I want to operate in. I've made a list of at least the very successful people there. Is what they wrote and what they write and what the videos they post that I watch. You too need to look at your area, the area you feel you want to become very successful at. Now, if assuming you want to you want to become a great writer, start to read articles posted by people who are very, very good in writing. Start to watch videos of writers. You'll be amazed how advanced you become. And I can assure you of one thing. See, if you've not heard any news about what Boko Haram has been doing over the past 12 months, nothing will change in your life. If you've not heard any all the news about what has been happening in the Nigerian government over all these particular years, nothing will change in your life. But I can tell you that something wonderful will happen in your life if you start to feed yourself with information on how to grow in a particular area. You find yourself advancing further in life than what you would have done if you did not start to channel your energy in that particular area. The next thing I also want you to do is you need to start to socialize. I was listening to a very successful entrepreneur today, and he was saying that the next set of people who will strive in the coming generation are those who know how to socialize, who know how to socialize physically. He's saying that the act of socializing on a personal level is being lost because most people are now almost on their iPad, on their phones, and people are losing the act of learning how to socialize, learning how to do one-on-one communication. And he said that you get to a stage whereby the few people who can master how to communicate one-on-one will be those who will lead the world. Because when the average person doesn't know how to communicate again, he will need somebody to communicate for them. And it is those who know how to communicate that will rise up and become leaders. I can tell you that one of the greatest things that has happened in my life came when I started to socialize. There is an event that Professor Pat Utomi normally organizes every month. It was when I started to attend such events that I started to see opportunities that I had never noticed. And these opportunities are what some of the things that are giving me one of the greatest boosts in my career. You need to start to socialize. Look at people who are where you want to be. Find a way of breaking into their clique and start to meet them. Needs to start to learn from them, see what they do, learn from them what they do. Because your life needs to change. These are ways that God has been using, wants to use to change our life. Look at the life of Jesus. He went to the house of Matthew, when Matthew was still a tax collector. He went to the house of the Pharisees. He went to the house of Zacchaeus. These are kind of people who he went to socialize. And he was during this socializing process that he made the greatest amount of impact. Just by coming into the house of Zacchaeus to eat, suddenly the life of Zacchaeus was so transformed that a lot of lives were impacted. Socializing has a massive way of influencing your life and influencing others. But people are losing the act because we are now moving our life online. Now, as people are moving online massively, be online, but also start to massively move your life offline. That way you'll be amazed at the changes that you can make. And I want to say it's already 12 midnight, and I want to say Happy New Year to everybody watching me as we celebrate a new year. And I want to wish you well in whatever you do, because I believe that this year that we've moved into will be a very, very successful year for all of us, that we're going to thrive here. And that is exactly why I'm sharing this information to you at this crossover point, because this is the point that you need to understand the things you need to do to move from last year into the next year. Things that that people will not normally share with you, but things that when you grasp and move and run ahead with it, then your life will be massively transformed. Now, the next point I also want to share is you need to build a mastermind group. In the book Think and Grow Rich, one of the secrets that was shared there was the act of having a mastermind group. When Jesus started his ministry, one of the first things he did was to call a group of apostles. You need a group of people who are progressive, people who really want to develop and build your life around them. There was one of the greatest and biggest consultancy firm in Nigeria, Philip Consulting, once shared something with us. He said that when he understood the power of a mastermind group, that about 20 to 30 years ago, he formed a mastermind group with a group of people, young up-and-coming entrepreneurs then. And every month, they met to share business ideas. They met to grow each other. And today, all of them are massively successful. And that is why he currently owns one of the most successful consultancy firms in Nigeria. I have recently also started a mastermind group where we meet every Friday in my office. So for those of you who also want to attend, I'll suggest you call up on my number on 080-2362-2171, especially for those of you in Lagos. The number again is 080-2362-2171. Now, the next important point, how God will use to transform your life, is for you to start to give up some opportunities that are currently feeding you now. When God wanted to transform the life of Abraham, the first thing he asked him to do was to give up his current opportunities. God told him, Abraham, leave your father's house and where you are now, and go to a land where I want to show you. Now imagine, just think about you are very successful, and God is asking you to leave what you are doing now and move into somewhere I want to show you. Personally, I've seen this work in my life. And that is why a few weeks back, when I was supposed to go and be part of a training of the organization that for the past 3 years I've been part of their training, and they pay me very well, I just sensed on my inside that this is not the time for me to continue in this particular area. That this aspect of my job needs to go down so that the next phase of my job needs to come up. And that is why, if you notice recently, I've been posting massively a lot of videos, because I've sensed that videos are the new direction that where God is moving me into. I've sensed that because I've said about timing and sensing. For a very long time now, for those of you who have noticed, that I've not done any videos. But recently, over the past 30 days now, that I've been doing almost every other day, I've been posting new videos. It's because I've been able to sense that the videos are the next line of direction that God is moving me to. And for me to be able to do this, I needed to cut down on the other areas, other opportunities that have been giving me my income. For you, new opportunities to come into your life, certain things that you are doing currently needs to go. I can tell you that this year that we move into, especially for Nigeria, is going to be a very tough one. But for you watching me, for you who have listened to me up to this very moment, I know that based on what I've shared with you, that this year will be a very easy one for you. Because if you can put down into practice some of these things that we've been talking about, you'll be amazed how your life will improve. I want to say thank you for listening to me. Now, for those of you who want to reach us, who want, maybe your business is facing some massive, serious challenge, or you just really want to know what to do, you can call me up on 080-2362-2171. And for all of you, wherever you are, I want to wish you a wonderful new year, and I pray that God will bless each and every one of us. And for those of you, again, who want to come and join us in our weekly business get-together, where we brainstorm on business ideas, and most importantly, solve the business problem of each of those who come around, I want you to reach me on 080-2362-2171, or simply just post on inbox on our Facebook page, on our website, your name, your email, and the challenge you are facing, and we address it and help you to overcome it. Thank you once again, and God bless you.